Hi, I'm Zane Stein with the Astrology Collective, and I'm here with Scott Olsen. Hi, Scott.
Hey, how are you, Zane?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Doing fine. Nice to see you. Nice to be with you.
Thank you for agreeing to talk with me. I'd like to start off by asking some background information. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
Originally, I'm from Minnesota, so all my younger years I grew up there. Um, Son of a minister, actually, and wonderful mother. Together, raised by them. Uh, did my undergraduate work at University of Minnesota, and then went to London. Did some graduate work there. My master's degree. Plato, Aristotle, philosophy of science, studied under the physicist David Bohm, did research while I was there for Douglas Baker, Dr. Douglas Baker, the esotericist, and then eventually ended up back here in Florida, did my doctorate at the University of Florida, the Pythagorean Plato and the Golden Section, a study in abductive inference, did my law degree there, and so that's kind of the background. Did a little bodybuilding on the way. Um, Big bug bit when I was young, and probably a major experience in my background that sometimes comes up. I usually don't talk about it too much. Was a perinatal experience when I was born. There was awareness, full awareness, right at the get-go, which kind of dictated the future, my future, as to where I've gone, what I've been up to, and where I am now.
Uh, that's amazing. My first memory is of my first words. I was in a stroller. My mother was pushing a stroller, and we passed another lady with a baby in a stroller. And my first words that came out of my mouth were, "Hi, baby." So I was a wee bit older than you. I don't remember anything before that.
Uh,
So you started off in a very, very cold climate, Minneapolis, and you went to a very much warmer place, Florida, that freaks out when it gets too cold. Do you like it better in Florida than in Minnesota?
Well, I actually like both locations. I love the winter sports, so I still have connections, go back up to Minnesota quite regularly. But also I do appreciate Florida, the poor person's California, we call it. Yeah, nice weather here. Yeah, it's good to be here.
Um, so go back a little bit
Mhm.
to your childhood. When you were growing up, was there anything particular that that you thought you'd like to be when you grow up? A lot of children have this. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a fireman. I want to be a spaceman. Is there anything that
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
remember like that?
Well, f- from the get-go, and also tied in with my perinatal awareness at the beginning, was this love for beauty, particularly horses. I was given a book with pictures of horses, beautiful. Just, I fell in love with it, and I would just look at that as a little child, just a little tyke, look at that again and again and again, and that beauty just was overwhelming. And I think that pulled me into nature, just a love of nature, which was there at the beginning as well. And from there, uh, probably I was thinking, well, I'd be a cowboy because of the association with the horses, but that really wasn't it so much. It was really the love of the beauty, these magnificent creatures, that maybe drew me into a little bit of the bodybuilding. I had a brother who was a bodybuilder and very successful, and so the aesthetics of the physical form, the human body, but then also nature. And so I was drawn more and more uh, towards wanting to probably be a philosopher. So that happened maybe with argumentation and discussions with my father, the minister, and arguing fine points of theology as a child, etc. That kind of drew me into that area, and possibly being a lawyer. Because a lot of the argumentation, which I became for a while, but in the end, it was really teaching, and it was tuning into Plato and numbers. And I didn't understand that at the beginning. I knew it, really, I know it sounds strange, but it is possible to have full awareness at birth, believe it or not. And fortunately, I found that others have had that. So that was kind of the thrust, was something engaged with beauty and philosophy.
Um, so tell me how you first became aware of Dr. Baker. I understand your journey up to that point pretty much started with your birth, but what tuned you in to want to connect with him and work with him?
Well, when I got to the University of Minnesota, I continued my training, but a lot of that also involved use of a brainwave synchronizer, self-hypnosis, learning how to program myself to lift heavier and heavier weights. But the interesting thing with using the hypnosis and crystal ball and focus of the mind and that whole thing, it ultimately led to out of body experiences, other transformative experiences, ability to control things with my mind to a degree. That's a whole nother story we don't even need to go into. But a lot of those things, I was becoming more and more involved in the esoteric. Originally was as a child, I was fascinated by unusual phenomena and witches and poltergeists and anything that was paranormal. And so I was drawn into parapsychology. But before long, the parapsychology opened up to more deeper levels of spirituality. That really, it wasn't just the, kind of the sensationalism that I was after. It was, what is the human soul? What are we all about? And that's where the ancient wisdom came. And that's where Baker kind of came onto the scene. But this was after I started to have many out of body experiences. I was already studying Alice Bailey, not as much as I did once I met him, but he came into the Twin Cities. I went and saw him speak. I was so overwhelmed by the power of this individual and his delivery of his voice and what he had to say, and the persona, the aura, the energy that surrounded him. It just overwhelmed me. And so I was deeply attracted to his work. And I had a ray reading, the 7 rays, for the personality, soul, the mental, astral, and physical body. Those rays, based upon Bailey's work. And before the night was up, and before we'd done the finished up, he had invited me to come and work with him in England. He knew that I wanted to go on and study and get my master's degree, and that's when it opened up as a possibility to do that in London, and then be his protege. And that opened up this whole immense world of ancient wisdom.
Wow. So for those that are watching this and are not 100% clear, when you say the ancient wisdom, can you say just a couple of sentences what you mean by that?
Sure. Sometimes people will use language, some very esoteric, like Hindus will call it the Gupta Vidya, the secret doctrine. Aldous Huxley, the perennial philosophy, or perennial wisdom. The idea is that there is a wisdom that's always been present on the planet here. It is not something that evolves. In some ways, it involutes. It comes. It's present at the very beginning of the cosmos, the universe, and so we call it ancient. And what are we referring to? The Hermetic wisdom, ancient Egyptian wisdom, Odinic mysteries, the Eleusinian mysteries of the Greeks, astrology, alchemy, Rosicrucianism, theosophy, Rudolf Steiner, anthroposophy, all of these, Gurdjieff. These are wisdom traditions that point to an ancient wisdom that tells us there's a very glorious future for everyone, ultimately, but it's not without a veil of tears and difficulties and no pain, no gain. And sometimes people want to go up the mountainside as opposed to kind of circumambulating around life after life. So some of us make a choice to tread the path of wisdom. Now, it doesn't mean the path is there and it tells you exactly what you're to do. However, I am ultimately convinced, as this is what happened to me. I realize, and I've seen it with all the near-death experiencers I've studied, every single human being has a purpose in life, and each of it's individual. It's a special purpose. That was just a little extraneous sound that's in the background here. And it's our duty really to figure that out before we die. Because once you die, you're stuck. Okay, then it doesn't mean you're not going to have other opportunities, but you can do things about it while you're alive if you wake up. And so that's where this whole notion of transforming consciousness comes in with the ancient wisdom. It gives us a pathway to figure out how to make ourselves better during this life.
I know you mentioned your early interest in Plato, and you know, in your biography you talk about the golden mean, and you're the author of The Golden Section, Nature's Greatest Secret, and you had another book more recently which also has the golden mean in the title. I have a very vague idea myself about it. I've seen pictures, for example, of the seashells talking about the golden ratio. But for those that have not heard about this at all, can you just give us a glimpse of what you're talking about?
Sure. Aaron, would you grab that? Right on top of that, there should be a golden calipers, white, right on top of the VCR. Yep. I'm not sure which one it is. Yeah. So the golden section, golden ratio, golden mean, it's the suggestion, first of all, is that there's a system of harmony at work in nature. That and ratio and proportion is where it's at. There's beauty. And the golden section is a way of cutting a magnitude, any length. And so I'm just going to hold up this ancient thing that we made once years ago. And the question is, okay, if I'm going to divide this in the most proportionate, aesthetic, beautiful possible way that would lead to immediate harmony, where do I do it? Well, if I cut it in the middle, I cut it in half, then the whole will be to either one of the segments, basically 2 to 1, right? You cut it in one half, the whole length would be 2, and that would be 1, 2 to 1, okay. But what happens when you cut it in half, it's static. You need something that is asymmetric such that, and here it is, so that the whole is to the longer segment in the same ratio same relationship as the longer segment is to the shorter. Okay, does that make sense now?
Yeah,
So
it does.
it repeats, so the same ratio of the whole to the longer, longer to the shorter. It gives you what's called proportion. That is the essence of proportion, is these two repeating ratios are identical. And there's only one way to do that, is in the golden cut. It is the most economical, simplest, only way to get proportion immediately through a single cut. Well, you could do it over here. In other words, it could be over here, it could be over here, but it's asymmetric. Now, why is that significant? Because the relationship of this to this, no matter how narrow or wide I make this, the relationship of this length to this length is always going to be a golden ratio. And what happens now, this thing is a little bit dilapidated, so I'm just going to assume that we can still use it. And it's the bones, it's not the flesh. So if I take this and I measure basically the distal phalange, the tip of my fingers right about there, flip this over, I should be able to get the medial phalange because they're in golden ratio. The human, oops, here, I'm sorry, I'm trying to make sure you're seeing it.
So is that
Okay.
standard for all human beings?
Yeah. And so now we flip this over, take the narrow part here and get the medial. That should be able to get me the proximal phalange, the next, which is the sum of the previous two. This is how nature works. It's additive and it has this pulse of beauty. It generates it, and that's why you get what are called Fibonacci numbers. Fibonacci numbers are whole numbers that approximate this. They go 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. Take a ratio of any two of them and you get an approximation to it. So when we do the talk in August, I will be using a PowerPoint presentation to really make this as clear as we possibly can. But that's also why, like with my little golden section book, you see, as you're talking about a nautilus shell and these spirals, these relationships, the way nature works, it grows. It's called mnemonic growth. So that was the one book. Later, actually, in between that one and the latest one, I did this one, self-published. We're going to try to get this available. However, this one is Mysteries of the Amazon, visionary artwork of Pablo Amaringo and his students. And then the last one we just did, I did with 3 physicists. This one we're expecting to really kind of rock some people. One of the scientists that helped is Muhammad al-Nashi, twice nominated for the Nobel Prize. He's in Egypt. Merit Kranjik, Lila, she's in Slovenia. And then where do I have Zhuan He? I must got to push it over here. Yeah, Zhuan He is in China, and then yours truly. So that's our latest book, but you're conducting the interview.
No, because the purpose of the interview is for you to answer questions. And so I'm very happy when you take the floor like that. So are you currently working on any other projects, articles, books, or are you focusing more on the teaching?
Well, I am doing a lot of teaching, but a lot of research as well. Continuing research, particularly with Muhammad al-Nashi, because some of the things that we figured out in this one are really, really pretty special. So we're working on a paper, a joint paper now, and one of the things we developed, it's a little bit technical, but it's uh, show and its reciprocal is kind of this incredible dyad. And then you have unity or one, or what they call the good. And that's your trinity, all your basic trinities. That's the basis of it right there. And we have figured out how those three together give rise to everything we're finding in physics. All the things that they're coming up with, these elaborate large hadron colliders and doing all these elaborate things, they don't need to. We actually can figure it out mathematically. The golden ratio solves the whole thing. So we're right on the verge of that. And then there's one other thing is, for a while now, I've had a book, Divine Proportion, The Mathematical Perfection of the Universe. I've had many, many people contribute to it. I've been working on this for several years. And so that's the next one. That'll be the last one. And Houston Smith, I don't know, are you familiar with Houston Smith? Kind of like he's the granddaddy of comparative religion here in the United States. Uh, he's kind of like Joseph Campbell is to mythology, Houston Smith is to religion.
The name
Well,
sounded familiar, but yeah.
well, he wrote Religions of Man. They then changed that to the World Religions, took the kind of the male language out of it. But he's the one who started comparative religion, the study of it. Yeah, he was a big gun. He became a very good friend, and he's written the preface for that new book. But anyway, so that's what I'm working on right now. Yes.
Okay. So briefly, let's discuss the workshop you'll be giving for us. Pisces to Aquarius, flowering of the ancient wisdom tradition, transformation of consciousness. Can you just tell us in a few sentences what we can expect from that talk?
Well, I hope that, and I've had a lot of practice at this, that I can convey the real significance of my golden mean number system that we have been kind of describing here, and how that can be utilized for transforming consciousness, literally. And there's so many different aspects to it, but we're going to also bring in the astrological aspects, alchemical aspects, the ancient wisdom traditions that tie into this. And hopefully I can help people realize that there is a method to transform consciousness. The ancients knew it. Some of it has been suppressed. Some of it is a little bit, I don't pull any punches. I do a lot of work with entheogens in South America and work with the shamans and the curanderos. And people need to realize this was part of the ancient wisdom all along. And in the mystery schools, that's what they were doing at Eleusis and in Egypt. They would get into these non-ordinary states. Now, there are different strokes for different folks. There are many ways to do this. One does not have to ingest entheogens. That's simply one of the paths. So yoga, meditation, qigong, Wim Hof's breathing exercise. There's so many different techniques. There are mind machines. There's Gansfield state. But again and again, it, it what I really want to do people is that purpose is effort to get on track, because that's the other area I've done so much studying in is near-death experiencers. Done many talks for the International Association of Near-Death Studies. And what upsets people the most is they'll have a life review. They see that there was an intention of what they're to do in this life, and they've got off track. They're missing it. And then they try to get back on track. Recalculating. It's like the GPS will recalculate and put you back on track, but you've got to figure it out. You've got to take the time to do it. And that's what my whole approach is all about. And I'll try to convey.
You. Um,
Techniques of transformation.
Would you like to share with people the address of your website if they want to, I guess it's Little Elephant.
No. My website is goldensection.expert.
Okay, thank you.
Goldensection.expert. And then I have a second one is mysteriesoftheamazon.com. Now well, that's what you need. I mean, I could have shot it up on the screen, but yeah. Um,
Fine.
goldensection.expert, and you can click on the publications or books, and you can go in and you can see a large portion of this book for free. And then also there's like 299 uh, references, and many of those are live. They're active on the website, so you can go in and you can see a lot of the work. There's also a poster. You can click on various portions of it and it'll come live for you.
Good. Thank you. Well, I want to thank you very much for talking. It's been very interesting, and I look forward to your workshop with us.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it too, Zane. Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure meeting you. Uh, maybe we'll get a chance to chat a little bit more.
All right. All right. I'm going to say goodbye for now.
Okay. Take care. We'll see you in August.